Alrighty folks, coming at you guys today with another spreadsheet for Mondays. We're doing spreadsheets every Mondays now. Went ahead and booted the face cam up. We're going to see if I can make the face cam work on some videos like this. I got a request on the previous video to bring the face cam back, so we're just kind of testing it out. But today we're taking a look at this spreadsheet. We have got Radical Rampage. So we're looking at builds for Rampage. Rampage is definitely in the meta right now. Tanks are in the meta in general. But before we hop into the spreadsheet, just want to say thank you guys first off for getting me up to over 300 subscribers. Seems like just the other day we were celebrating getting to the 200 subscriber landmark, but we are now past over 300. I think actually, let me look. As of right now, it's at 307. So thank you guys for all of the support. Been enjoying it. Glad we've been having some good conversations in the comments about the meta and how to improve. And just glad to be putting out some content that you guys have been enjoying. So if I'm also actually over like in the multiples of thousands of returning viewers as well. So if you are one of the returning viewers who's checked out multiple videos and you've been enjoying the content, we're now doing tier list or top tips videos on Fridays and spreadsheets on Mondays. So if you want to see any more of that, you can go ahead and subscribe. It'll be much appreciated. But today we're hopping into another spreadsheet for Mondays. We're looking at Radical Rampage. I was thinking of titling it Make Rampage Great Again because that was the comment that I got requesting to see Rampage or Rampage build options, but went ahead and went with Radical Rampage because he's kind of like radioactive when you get near him, and he's got that fire blossom, and it's just putting major tick damage on you. So this is what we're looking at. Rampage, like I said, is definitely big in the meta right now. The meta is very tank heavy and also very range support heavy, so often if your team is going for a squishier range support, then it'd be nice to have a jungle tank, whether that's Chimera, whether that's Rampage, whether that's a Richter jungle or Steel jungle or whatever it may be. Tanks are in and tank junglers are in. So starting off right here, Rampage is a top 3 tank hero in the current version 1.0.2 meta. I don't think I have to tell you that, man. Survivability is insane. It's really hard to take him down sometimes. He gets 6.6 flat regen and 3,023 max health, just base stats. For being level 18, that's before he ults. His ult adds 700 max health to him when he hits it. So, and that 700 max health that it adds counts as the same as build health. So it counts the same as your health from items. So his passive gives him 0.2% of his total maximum health. So that is his build health plus that 3,000 max health that he gets just from leveling up. So 0.2% of his total max health as regeneration while in the jungle, and that is multiplied by 4 while he's not in combat. So that ends up being a pretty fair amount of regeneration in the jungle, especially when you're just rotating from camp to camp and going around. So his Pounce and his Rumble abilities both gain 6% of his built max health as additional damage. So that means 6% of all the health you have built from items, as well as the 700 max health that you gain while he's in his ult, also contributes to the damage on that Pounce and Rumble ability. And then finally, under ult, he gains 700 max health and gains his passive regeneration multiplied by 4.5. Now, I jumped into practice to do some testing because I was like, his passive regeneration multiplied by 4.5, that doesn't make sense when I ult and I have 140 plus regeneration with no items built. It doesn't make sense that it's just 4.5%. So what it actually is, and this might be an unknown mechanic to some of you guys because this is a little weird, is he gets the King of the Jungle passive where it is 0.2% of his total maximum health as regeneration, and even though he's going to be in combat when he's hitting his ult, he gets that 4% multiplier on it regardless, and then on top of that he gets the 4.5 multiplier. So he gets doubly multiplied, you know, he gets consecutively multiplied both of those buffs, so it's not 0.2% of his total. It ends up getting multiplied by 4 and then by 4.5 again, and it will include the 700 max health that you get from his ult, as well as all your build health, as well as the 3,000. So it ends up being a massive number. You see over here we've got some damage numbers or some regen amounts calculated with this formula right here. And this still isn't going to be exact. It's still going to be a little bit more than this on most of these builds, but we'll go through all that. Taking a look at how I've set this spreadsheet up, it's pretty standard. It's pretty similar to how I've done spreadsheets in the past. We've got over here on the left items, and then we've got recorded what they give you health-wise, physical power-wise, physical armor, magical armor, ability haste. I wanted to look at as well because oh geez, I didn't even fill out this. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna give you a little live look at this. Overlord gives you 2.5% of right, 2.5%. I can't believe I didn't even fill this column out. It wasn't very necessary for doing the builds because I calculated the Overlord power in the builds that had Overlord. So I think it gives you 2.5% of your built power, of your built health. I guess I should confirm that, eh? Let me confirm that. I'm almost certain that it's 2.5%. Okay, this wiki is very not updated. A Metacity will be updated, right? For sure, right? Last time I actually went on a Metacity, they had not updated any of the version 1.0.2 items yet. So, okay, oh my gosh, what is happening there? Get off the screen, man. Go to the, oh my gosh. Or a Metacity's UI is out here just cooked. Okay, a Metacity, just give me a halfway decent UI. Like, what are we doing? Okay, well, I'm pretty sure it's 2.5%. Oh, I recorded it here for sure. I recorded it here for sure. Yeah. 2.5%. I knew that. It's just, you know, rather be safe than sorry here. So what I've done here is, like I said, I've got ability haste in here because ability haste is pretty important on Rampage. We've got Overlord power. So this is the power that you would gain from Overlord. This is just 2.5% of your max health, so of the health that it adds. So that's no big deal. Like I said, I calculated it separately in the builds over here. So, and then I've got other values. So I've done this before on these, where it's just all the stats that it gives that aren't on here, and its passive are just wrapped up into an other value number, so that you can kind of see how effectively I think Rampage gets use out of it. So there it is. You've seen the tables like this before if you've been on these videos before, and I haven't gone through here and highlighted any standout numbers. Why is that? Okay, that's interesting. Let's see if, I guess because, okay, there we go. So yeah, it's I haven't highlighted any of them. I did include here at the bottom the Titan's Crest evolutions as well as the Warrior's Crest evolutions, depending on which ones you want to build. 99% of the time, I'm assuming you're building these Warriors or these Titan Crest evolutions. I think it's the only item that I gave a 10 out of 10 rating, because Rampage just gets incredible value out of pretty much any of those Titan evolutions. So this is it. What I did to put the specific items in here is I went on a Metacity and I went on YouTube and I looked at every build I could find and pulled out every item that anyone ever recommended building on Rampage, and I put them in here. So you can see the common theme is that most of them give you health, and either power or armor with it, or both, or health is really the main thing that you're building on Rampage majority of the time. So they're all in here, every item I could find. You see a lot of these up here at the top are the ones that I saw very frequently, and then some of these towards the bottom are ones that you're not going to see recommended as often, but I went ahead and just put them all in here because, like always, this spreadsheet will be available for you guys. So if you want to hop in here and make your own builds, this will give you a nice head start to the build making process. So hop in here, link in the description and in the pinned comment, and you can play with some builds for yourself or make some builds for yourself. So we'll go ahead and just go to the builds, because I did set up a couple. I thought about setting up a couple more, but I've already set up, this is already enough to look at here. We've got a couple to go through. So what I've done for the builds category is I've just done all the items with your starter crest, and then I've summed up everything that they offer you, including the other value category, just so we can get an idea of how effectively he uses these procs. You see most of these are in the high 40s to this one's actually a 56 range. So going through here, this is the standard Overlord build. This is the build you're going to see the majority of the time. This is the build you're going to see recommended the majority of the time. If you've been playing with or against Rampages in your ranked games, you're probably seeing them basically build this build with maybe one item swapped out, or two items at the most swapped out. But it's basically Sapphire's Mantle. This is the starter item evolution that gives you stacking health. So you hit it, it gives you extra max health for the duration that it's active, and it does damage. And then at the end of the duration of it, you gain max health equal to percentage of the damage that you dealt during it. So this basically just lets you stack up even more max health throughout the game. If you stay on top of it and you're hitting it every engagement you can, then you'll stack up more and more max health off of this. So definitely recommend this when you're going on these massive health builds and you're trying to get the most out of Overlord. So that's what we've put in here. It's going to be the item that you see recommended the most probably on Rampage. So here it is in here. Overlord, of course, that's really what the build is based off of. Building Overlord first item on Rampage Jungle gives you way better clear, and it gives you the scaling into the late game off the physical power from your health. So Overlord in here, of course, giving you 30 physical power. It's the only item that we have in the build that actually gives you physical power, which is something that you're going to see pretty often on Rampage builds, having Overlord as the only item that gives you power, and just giving you extra power from your health. Fire Blossom, it's a no-brainer. It's your damage item basically. It's the item that's actually doing damage for you because it's dealing AoE damage based off of your max health as magical damage. So we won't have any pin for it. There's no pin in any of these builds. I can go ahead and give you that warning. But it does give you physical armor. Now gives you 40 and 400 health. It's a pretty good stat line. So this is where the majority of your damage is coming from, especially late game, especially when you're hitting your ult and you have a massive health pool like that. The Fire Blossom damage is pretty significant, and it received buffs recently. So next we've got Unbroken Will. This is just it's one of your magical armor items that gives you 500 health. It's either Unbroken Will or Void Helm. Both of them give you 500 health and give you a chunk of magic armor. Unbroken Will is good because it helps you when you get CC'd or when you get immobilized, which is really when you need the armor the most. So it gives you an armor boost when you get CC'd, and will keep you alive, especially if they have multiple people CCing. It will keep you alive in team fights a lot better. And then we've got Remnant of Renewal in here. This is the item that you could definitely swap out. This is not required. I have it in here. It now only gives 650 health instead of 700 like it did in the previous patches before the version 1.0.2. But 650 is still pretty significant. And the healing from it on top of Rampage's passive healing in the jungle just means that you can just step into jungle no matter how low health you are and basically become full health in like less than 10 seconds. So pretty insane amount of regeneration coming from it, but this would be one that you could swap out for Fist of Razul, for Salvation, for another armor item, whatever you need depending on the game. This is the least probably important one. It does give you 15 ability haste, so if you are swapping it out, I'd recommend you swap it out with something that gives you ability haste as well. So Fist of Razul, I'm thinking, would be a pretty decent one. Then we've got Tainted Bastion. This is a classic one. It gives you magical armor. It gives you percent mitigation. It's not a bunch, but it is percent mitigation. Gives you anti-heal. It's just a really good magical armor item. Rampage makes great use of a bunch of physical armor items, but when it comes to magical armor items, there's only a few that are really valuable. You will see that in the conclusions category, and Tainted Bastion is one of them. So I've always been a fan of Tainted Bastion, even if they don't have mages that are healing. Percent mitigation is really great late game, so I like that. Tainted Guard, this is your other basically damage dealing item, because this deals bleed damage to people when they hit you, when they auto attack you, based off of your amount of physical armor. Now, we don't have an absurd amount of physical armor in this build, but this is just nice to have that extra damage going on to people. You could swap this out for Elefrost to kind of give you the same type of deal where you've got a physical armor and health item that also boosts your damage. Elefrost could do that pretty well. But I like Tainted Guard because it's consistent, it's anti-heal on top, and it's just nice. Comes with 10 ability haste too, so don't have a lot of mana regen in this build for sure, but this is the really standard Overlord build. That's why I've taken so long to go over it. It's the one that you're going to see the most often, or at least you're going to see 4 of these items built almost every single time on a Rampage. It's just how it is right now. It's just the meta for Rampages, especially Overlord, Fire Blossom, Tainted Guard. You're going to see those 3 recommended like on any build that you see a Rampage build recommended on. So that's the standard Overlord build. See, it comes out to decent rumble damage of over 400 because rumble itself gets health scaling. Like I said at the beginning, 6% health scaling. And it also gets power scaling, and then also our power is getting scaling off of our health as well. So you see, we're getting 70 power on this build from Overlord's health passive, from the power to health, or the health to power, I should say, conversion passive. So 100 power coming out of just Overlord because of all the health items we've got built. So definitely valuable here. Gives you good damage, no pin behind it, so you're really not going to do that much. And this is split into 2 hits, so he does the rumble, he does the 2 hits. So it's even harder to get through armor with it, but at least it's something that is going to give you pretty fast clear with starting Overlord first item. And then under your ult, your health regen is going to be 242 is what I have it calculated as, but that is not including Tainted Bastion or Remnant of Renewal's health regen stats, bonuses they give, so it's actually going to be more than this. It's probably going to be over 250 health per second when you're in your ult, so that's a lot of health. That is a lot of regen. That can make a big difference in a team fight, especially when you've got Tainted Guard and Fire Blossom just burning people down around you. So that is the standard build. That's probably the build I would recommend if you're trying to ask what do I build on Rampage. That's probably the one that I gotta give you, because these other ones are kind of, memey or funny type builds. So and they do probably merit some testing, but that's the build for Rampage right now. That's the meta. Everyone's kind of agreed upon. That's the one that we're going with. Now, I like to build, when I play Rampage, more of a build that's like this. I've called it Quit Hitting Yourself, because it's based on dealing your damage via them proccing damage on themselves, basically, through Fire Blossom and Tainted Guard and whatnot. So we've got Razorback instead of Sapphire's Mantle in here, because you just hit that Razorback, and then I think it's 25% of all the pre-mitigated damage they take. So it's kind of like Thorns if you played Smite. This is a really good one because when you hit your ult, you've got all that health regen and you've got all that tankiness and huge health pool, and they start, their carry starts autoing you a bunch. That Razorback is just reflecting a ton of damage to them. So Razorback in here in place of Sapphire's Mantle, Fire Blossom, Tainted Guard again, because those are what the build is based off of, but most Rampage builds are based off of, because this deals damage back to people that are trying to attack you. So Frosted Lure, because it is an item that deals damage when you are near someone for, I think it's 5 seconds. When you're near them for 5 seconds, it deals damage based off of your maximum health, and it also applies a slow. It is on a long cooldown, so you're just getting this one time per combat, basically. You're proccing this when you first jump into combat on people, but it gives you a slow, lets you stick to them. Then we've got Flux Matrix in here, which you're not going to see recommended on Rampage pretty much ever, but Flux Matrix in here because the Fire Blossom damage dealt, and I believe the Frosted Guard, and potentially the Razorback and Tainted Guard. I think the Tainted Guard may be true damage. Anyway, a lot of the damage that you're dealing is magical from these procs, so Flux Matrix boost that magical damage dealt by 10% to opponents. It also reduces their tenacity, so they're not going to be able to get away from you while all this damage is reflecting onto them, so it's kind of a nice little combo. Also, it's another one of the another ability haste item, so pretty decent in this build. We've got Tainted Blade in here next because it doesn't give you any armor, but it does at least give you 45 power, so it's nice to have at least one power item in here. And it gives you an anti-heal item on top of your Tainted Guard, so always nice to have anti-heal. 15 ability haste is really nice, but the real reason Tainted Guard's in here is after they've been tainted, after you hit them and put the tainted proc on them, the next time you hit them with an ability, which you're going to be spamming your Rumble, so you're going to hit them with an ability. After you hit them with that ability, they take 8% damage, I believe it is, from all sources. For like 3 to 5 seconds, something like that. So that means that your Fire Blossom, your Tainted Guard, your Frosted Lure, your Razorback, if it's proccing, is all doing extra damage to them by 8% or whatever it is, on top of the Flux Matrix 10% damage boost. So it's just a massive amount of reflect damage coming at people. And then we've capped it off with Crystal Curious. This is just for having a big chunk of magical armor, because the only other magical armor item we have in here is Flux Matrix. So wanted to get a strong second magical armor item in. This could also just be swapped out for Tainted Bastion or Unbroken Will or Void Helm or something like that, but I wanted to recommend Crystal Curious because it gives you that speed up, and it's like the strongest kind of single item magic armor. So you may need that in a build like this where you're not dealing that much damage and you need to be survivable. So overall, the Rumble damage doesn't come out nearly as high at 333 because we have significantly less power without Overlord in the build. And then again, the regen is going to be pretty high at 220 plus health regen per second when you're under your ult. So real kicker to this build is you're setting on 45 ability haste. So a little bit more ability haste than the standard build. You're going to be spamming abilities, but mostly you're going to be reflecting damage back at people. So that's the quit hitting yourself build. That's kind of the build that I prefer most of the time, just to put damage procs on you. If items I would swap out of this based on the situation is definitely Frosted Lure. It's a support item, so you can build it for cheap and then you can sell it later when you have more gold. So Frosted Lure you could swap out for another physical armor item. You could swap it out for Elefrost, like I said in the previous one. You could swap it out for Stonewall. You could swap it out for Warden's Faith, whatever you want. And then I probably wouldn't swap out any of these other ones. Maybe Crystal Curious if you wanted to put in Void Helm or Unbroken Will or Tainted Bastion. So next build we've got lined up here for you is the Healing Too Much build. So this is just the straight up, I'm going to heal as much as I possibly can on Rampage build and just really tick the other team off by I'm healing so much that if they don't build anti-heal, they can't kill me type build. So We've got Judgment in here from the Warrior starter item rather than a Tank starter item. That's how you know already that this is kind of a meme-y build, because you need to be going the Tank starter items. You need to be going the Titan Crest starters. But we've got Judgment in here just for the extra healing. You know, these are all healing items, so went ahead and put that in. It also, going with the Warrior starter items, gives you Omnivamp, so you know, any damage that you do, it's going to be nice to get a little bit of Omnivamp back from it. So it's what it's in here for. Fist of Razul, because it gives you healing, it gives you damage based off of your health, but mainly the healing is what it's in here for. Void Helm, it's in here because it boosts healing. It's your best magical armor item for boosting healing. Tainted Bastion with it because it gives you percent mitigation, gives you nice armor chunk, gives you nice health chunk, and it gives you a little bit extra healing with its stat line. Draconum, so this is your physical armor item that boosts healing. Draconum did just get a buff up to 40 physical armor, so it is a little bit more practical now, but it's not really ideal on Rampage as it doesn't give you any health. So, you know, it's in here, it boosts your damage, it boosts your armor, it gives you a huge amount of ability haste, with all these items giving you so much ability haste. And then we've got Elefrost for, again, health, armor, ability haste, mana regen, and also it doesn't give you any extra healing, but it does slow people down, so it's nice to be able to stick to them. And then Remnant of Renewal right here at the end for the massive healing passive. Oh, there's a cat coming through. What are you doing, kitty? What are you doing? Hey! Hey! What a good girl. I know. So yeah, Remnant of Renewal gives you that massive passive healing. Yeah, I know, it's okay. It comes out to 356 rumble damage, so pretty strong, pretty decent. You know, 2,500 health here at the end, despite Draconum not giving you any health. I know, it's okay, calm down. And then again, massive health regen, but on this build, the health regen isn't all that you're reliant on. You're getting massively boosted health and healing from the other sources. Your Judgment healing, your Fist of Razul healing, and Void Helm and Draconum are both going to crank this healing way, way up. So, be interesting to see how aggressive the healing is when you have the Void Helm and Draconum procs going at the same time. So that may be one that we do some testing with. We'll talk about that here at the end. Then I've got Full Steam Ahead. This is basically the movement speed or sticking to people type build. We've got Nern War Boots in here as our Titan Crest evolution item. It's not really one that I would pretty much ever recommend outside of meme purposes, but it's in here for the memes because imagine someone's trying to get away from you as Rampage and you're leaping after them in your ult and you're just pursuing them violently, and then you hit the War Boots and they're like, oh, now there's no way I can escape. He's got a massive movement speed boost on top. So we've got it in here just for the memes. And then we've got a build that's pretty much kind of what you would build on like a Chimera, an Overlord Chimera type build, or like a higher damage dealing tanky jungler type build, because we've got Earthshaker, Bonesaw, Berserker's Axe. So those three all giving you physical power and health. Earthshaker giving you a nice chunk of attack speed. Bonesaw and Berserker's Axe giving you either slowdowns or movement speed. So that's what every item in this build is based off of. Is either giving you slowdowns for the opponents or giving you movement speed or tenacity. So we see that next with Gaia Greaves giving us movement speed and tenacity as our physical armor item. And then Crystal Curious, like I said, as our magical armor item because it gives you movement speed once you take a couple hits from magical damage. It stacks up and then it gives you that huge movement speed boost as our sole magical armor item. And then we've just got Salvation in here because, I figure we've already built 3 physical power items, and Salvation Gives us 500 health, and it's really going to give us the survivability that we need in this build, because this is not a heavy armor build. It does have almost 2400 health, but it doesn't give you a ton of armor, so the salvation proc for the shield is really what's going to potentially come in clutch to save us there. Big chunk of physical power, over 400 damage to the Rumble, no pin behind it. I thought about maybe getting Citadel in here for the to get some percent mitig or some percent pin in essentially, but just went ahead and went with this. You could put Citadel in over Salvation probably, and find good use with it for dealing more damage, but comes out to a nice chunk of ability haste. You know, not as much as the full healing build, but comes out with a nice chunk of ability haste. You know, it's hard to say. I think when I do the testing, this will be one that I want to look at, because you never really see this recommended on Rampage, but it seems like you could do decently. Your autos are going to hit a lot harder with the Bonesaw and Berserker's Axe procs, so interesting to see. We'll give that one a nice try. And then the final build that we're looking at here is Clifford. So Clifford the big red dog. We've got Sapphire's Mantle, which increases your size when you hit it, and also Giant's Ring in here, which increases your size when you ult. So basically, if you hit Sapphire's Mantle under ult with Giant's Ring in this build, you become a skyscraper that can block the entire lane and is just inescapable. The biggest target on the map, and the best front line for your team, because your other team probably won't even be able to get around you. Like, you can block an entire jungle lane with just how big you are with those two procs combined there. And then going more with that theme, we've got Stonewall and Warden's Faith to give you just an absurd amount of armor and tankiness. Physical damage is not going to touch you at all when you've got these, and you've got Frost Guard in here to give you even more. So your physical armor number is absurd at 238 before your level up armor. So this is just built armor. Then you're going to have another like 100 from level up armor. So that means your Stonewall is going to be proccing for massive percent mitigation. Warden's Faith is going to be reducing the enemy hero's physical power, and preventing you from taking as much crit damage. So this is basically just the unkillable wall type build. Really fun as long as you're relying on your team and they're locking it down on the damage department, because you don't have a lot of ability haste. You're not dealing a lot of damage, especially without Overlord in this build or Tainted Bastion. Having neither of those means you're basically not dealing damage. You're just disrupting, you're just CCing, and you're just frontlining, as Clifford the big red dog. So Frost Guard in here for the double armor. I just figured I'd like to have a third magical armor item in here, and wanted to go ahead and tack some extra physical on top. Won't have as much health in this build with only 2,000 built because of that. You could swap this out, of course, for Void Helm or something like that, but I just went for the massive armor build because that's what gets you the value out of Stonewall. And then Unbroken Will and Tainted Bastion for the Unbroken Will for the armor multiplication, which is really strong on this build, because getting 25% of both your armors when you get CC'd is going to make you even more unkillable. And then Tainted Bastion so that we at least have one anti-heal item in here, and it gives you extra percent mitigation on top of the Giant's Ring percent mitigation that you get from it. So this is a good build for survivability, massive tankiness, because you might as well build a bunch of armor, because your ult's going to give you 700 health, and you're already going to have a ton of health regen. So, if you're regenning 200 health a second during your ult, but it takes them a lot more work to deal 200 points of damage to your health, then because you have so much armor, then you get better value out of it. So that's all the builds that I wanted to talk about here. Like I said, the standard Overlord build is really the most meta one. It's really the one you're going to see the most often. And I think what I was originally going to do, we'll go ahead and mention this now, is hop into the training ground after this like I usually do, and kind of show off or test one of these builds. But I don't know if that's really practical on Rampage, because you don't get to see how does this affect your clear. Does this give you a decent clear? Does this give you good survivability against opponents? Does it give you good gank potential? So what I'm probably going to actually do is maybe just record a couple matches or just hop into a couple matches with Rampage and try out some of these builds. I think the one I'm going to focus on trying out is this full steam ahead build because it seems pretty funny and it seems a little different than the typical meta builds. I've played Rampage plenty with this type of Overlord build and it does work great and it's what you see most of the time, but if this build with the like auto attack procs can work out decently, then we'll give that a try just to see, because I am curious. And then we may also do the full tank or the full armor type build and see how that feels. But we'll just record some Rampage matches here in the next couple weeks and give you guys some looks at those rather than hopping into training ground here, because I don't think we can really get anything out of the training ground. So that's the build, that's the spreadsheet. Like I said, hop in here, make some builds for yourself. If you're a big Rampage player, help me out. Guys, if you're a big Rampage player, in the comments, let me know what items you're building. Let me know how close this standard Overlord build is to what you're building most of the time. You know, let me know your preferred items or your preferred build order on Rampage, because I don't play him that much. He's not my favorite. I missed the days of Paragon where he was incredibly strong. But he is pretty decent. He is back in the meta now for sure. So let me know what you guys have been building on him and we can get better together with him. Some conclusions here to end it off. Rampage benefits most from building 4 to 6 health items, maximum health added items, with his Rumble and Regen both scaling off of added health, and his Pounce. But his Pounce, you're not really using it for damage, you're using it to get around and stuff. So building 4 to 6 health items, it's just how Rampage scales. It's just how Rampage scales right now. It's how you get the most damage out of him, as well as, you know, the most survivability with his getting massive regen under his ult. So build health items on him. That's no surprise. That's how Rampage is. The highest value items in general are Overlord, Fire Blossom, and Tainted Guard. So these items supplement not building damage items and help your clear. So all 3 of these items, especially Overlord and Fire Blossom, give you way better clear in the early game. I mean, a lot of people, you're building one of those 2 items first item regardless. So those are going to help your clear in the jungle a lot, as well as supplement the fact that you're not building damage items. You're not building, you know, some people like to build Basilisk, or some people like to build some of these other ones like maybe Earthshaker or Augmentation, maybe because it gives you health and stuff like that. You know, Echelon Cloak, if you're just, you know, doing weird stuff. But really, the majority of your damage is going to come from Fire Blossom and Tainted Guard. So, you know, it is what it is. These are the most valuable items on them because it basically gives you the ability to deal damage and clear your camps without building any damage items. So you're building survivability, but you're also getting damage from it. Next up, for magical armor items, build Tainted Bastion for extra mitigation. You know, it gives you percent mitigation. It gives you anti-heal if you need it against mages. Build Unbroken Will if they have multiple CCs. So that one's pretty straightforward. The Unbroken Will procs happens when you get immobilized and gives you extra armor. So if they have multiple CCs, you're going to proc it pretty frequently. So definitely build Unbroken Will in those situations. And then if you're build Void Helm, if you're stacking it with multiple other healing items. So those are your 3 magical armor items, you know, Tainted Bastion, Unbroken Will, Void Helm. There's a whole list of physical armor items that he does great with, whether it's Tainted Guard, Fire Blossom, Elefrost, Giant's Ring, Stonewall, you know, Frost Guard if you want some of both armors, Draconum, you know, Citadel. There's plenty of physical armor items. Giant's Ring too. Giant's Ring's a fun one. But there's only about those 3 magical armor items that you can really get good value with. You could try to sneak Mist Meadow Buckler in there, but the fact that it doesn't give you health and the fact that it no longer gives you Omnivamp is really a bummer. So those are your 3 best magical armor items. And then finally, above all, you should be building to your opponent's comp and your team's comp as well, but mainly to your opponent's comp. So What I mean by that is sometimes I'll play these games where they've got a magical damage solo laner. They've got a magical damage jungler. They've got, a Richter support or whatever it may be. So if they're rocking something like 4 magical damage dealers, or some of their biggest damage dealers, like their jungler is a Countess or a Quang or something like that, then you need to be building more magical armor items to keep you alive. It makes sense, but it is how it is. Keep it in mind. If they're building, if they have a physical damage solo laner, jungler, and carry, then you may do better off to pick up Stonewall, or pick up Warden's Faith, or pick up Elefrost, or pick up 4, physical armor items and only 1 magical armor item plus Overlord or something. So build to your opponent's comp. If your opponents are healing a bunch, make sure you've got your Tainted Guard and your Tainted Bastion, or like I said, slip Tainted Blade in there. If they don't have any healing, then you don't need all of that anti-heal. You can, rotate into Elefrost or Stonewall or Warden's Faith or something like that. So build to your opponent's comp. Keep your opponent's comp in mind when you're picking your crest. If they have a bunch of tanks on their comp, then you may not want to build Razorback, because it's reflecting damage. So if they're not dealing the damage, if they're tanking, then Razorback's not going to be as good of a deal as going just Sapphire's Mantle and just making yourself even tankier, or picking up Judgment, or even picking up Iceborne Talons maybe to help your team try to burn some tanks down. So keep the comps in mind. It's important for every role. It's important for jungle as well, and even for your tank junglers. So that's the spreadsheet, guys. Like I always say, hop into the pinned comment in the description. Hop in here and play with the spreadsheet yourself. Check it out. Hopefully you can get some good information out of here and try these builds out. Try out any of these builds. Like I said, if you're a Rampage main, help me out in the comments. What would you change on any of these builds to make them, perfectly fit how you play them? Or, what items and build order do you generally prefer on them? So we'll hop into some matches here later in the week and test out some of these. Maybe test out the full steam ahead one, because I'm interested to see how that goes. It's really off meta from what's generally recommended. And then maybe also test out the healing build, because that is an interesting one. I've never built Draconum on Rampage, but I could see it being pretty decent with the Fist of Razul and Void Helm procs and everything like that. So that's going to do it for this Monday's spreadsheet video, guys. Thanks for watching. Check out last Friday we just did an updated tier list for the version 1.0.2, so you can see where Rampage sits on that tier list, or where your preferred hero sits on that tier list. So check that one out. Last Monday we did the health and armor gold efficiency tier list, so check that tier list out. It's got some implications on when you should be building certain items, as far as which items are most gold efficient. For example, we've got Frosted Lure in here. Frosted Lure is a support item that's very cheap, so it has a higher gold efficiency. You could potentially look at building it early and then selling it late when you have more gold. So stuff like that. Check out that armor and gold efficiency spreadsheet, and look for some more ranked gameplays coming. We've been playing a lot of games on the 1.0.2, and we've got one more gameplay actually coming that was recorded on the 1.0 patch. That is a Feng Mao gameplay, so we'll have the post commentary out later this week, probably Wednesday, for that Feng Mao gameplay, because I realized I didn't have any Feng Mao gameplay, I don't think, on the channel, so I wanted to go ahead and get that one out and do a post-game commentary over it, because it was an interesting match, and we have a lot of takeaways from that. Of course, check out the Faye match that I played prior to the 1.0.2, where I did a post-game commentary over it. We had a lot of nice takeaways from that about how to be a better teammate, how to work better with your team, how to keep your head on you, and the benefits of keeping your head on you in a ranked match particularly. So thanks for watching, guys. We will see y'all in the next one. Look for some more ranked gameplays, and look for this Friday. I think we're going to do a top tips for solo laners. So we'll see if that's what ends up coming out, but I think that's what we're going for right now. That's what we're looking at for this Friday. So we'll see you on the next one. Hopefully the face cam footage ended up working out well. And if you guys enjoy it, we'll try to fit it into some more of our games or for some more of our videos and gameplays. Like I said, we've got to wait until the fiber gets installed before we can put them in the gameplays. So we'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching.